one took you through understanding how to graph proportional relationships. So as we continue on with topic 2.5 or 2-5, we want to continue working with this to understand what graphs can tell us. So below you, whether you're looking in the book or as you're watching this screen, you can see we have this data table. Our x-axis is time, our y-axis is distance. We have a couple points listed on there. So now let's check out our question. It says there's a proportionate relationship, right? It starts at 0, 0, a straight line. We know it's a proportional relationship. However, now we ask this question, what does each of these points represent in this situation? So we have the 3 points here, right? So we have point 1, 0, 0. Right? If we were to analyze this, we would say 0 is how far we've moved on the x, so that would be 0 hours, and distance would also be zeros. Our second point then, here, 155. 155 would say that, moving in the x would be 1, so that would be 1 hour, 55 minutes. Or sorry, 55 miles. That's not minutes, that's miles. So we have that idea. And our third point then represents 275 miles in 5 hours, right? 5 on the x, then up to 75. So as we look at that, we're understanding that we're working with this idea of k equals y divided by x, right? Or as they like to write it often, y equals k x. All right, continuing on then. Oh, they gotta load it all up again. All right, here we go. Constant of proportionality then, right? What is this constant then that we're going to see here? To determine that, what we need to do is we got to find the relationship of our x to our y. And the smaller the numbers, the easier it's going to be. So let's use our first point. So since our first point is 155, then we're just going to rewrite this so that we can see the relationship between y and x and solve for k. So since we move a distance of 1, right, x is 1, we're going to put x on the bottom, or 1, and y-axis, 55, so that's going to equal k. And by solving that, 55 divided by 1, k equals 55. With that being said then, we can come back and we can plug it into our equation so that we can start to solve for y or x, right? So we took that k, which is 55, and we plugged it in right here. So now we have y equals 55x. And so our equation helps us understand this relationship between them. And from here, we can really start to answer any question we might have about how Mr. Brown drives. Right? We can start saying, well, what's going to happen in 3 hours? And what's going to happen in 4 hours? Or we can go beyond what the table says and we can start asking questions like, well, what about 15 hours? And because of the constant of proportionality, we're going to get an answer that works. So now that you've determined the equation, you can use that equation to plug in your points and solve this problem. All right, then as we look at example 3, we need to understand how graphs show this proportional relationship. And there's some pretty important rules that we want to jot down and keep in mind. And if you follow these rules, you'll always identify proportional relationships correctly. So, first one. Our first graph we would say is proportional, right? two qualifications that we need. First qualification, it's a straight line. We can see that nice straight line. Second qualification, it goes to the origin, or 0, 0. All right. Then second one, we would say is not proportional. Yes, it meets the straight line, but because it doesn't go through 0, 0 here, it doesn't qualify as proportional. Right? Proportional. And finally, our third example, not proportional. Now, in this case, it does start at the origin, 0, 0, but as you can see, it's not a straight line. It has a nice curve in it. Not the nicest curve, I guess, but a curve. And because of that, it doesn't fit that proportional relationship. So keeping that rule in mind, that it needs to be straight, needs to go through the origin, that's going to be your sign for a proportional line. All right, then here is your example. Go ahead and fill it in your book. And if you have additional questions you need to ask about this lesson, please write those into your note there so you can ask it right away when you get to class. And we can head on with 2.5, understanding proportional relationships on a graph. That's it for lesson 2.5.